Welcome back to Horns High Studios for another episode of 666 Seconds of Murder. That means each one of these videos is less than 666 seconds or 11 minutes and 6 seconds. So let's get to business. Going back to the Idaho 4 case, talking about some getaway possibilities. So thought this would be an interesting one. Remember, with all my videos, these are just for informational purposes only. I'm not saying anybody's guilty of anything. These are just my opinions and speculation. Some theories thrown out there about a case that interests all of us. So, it's one thing to organize a complicated crime like this one, and then the act of carrying it out, would absolutely horrify just about everybody. But the last piece of the puzzle is getting away. And there are several options here when I started to really think about this. Now, in my opinion, I think too much emphasis has been paid on that Hyundai Elantra, the white one. Think about it. That's one of the few things that the law enforcement entities that be were willing to give up. So is that the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but? I'm not sure. We know that, law enforcement can lie to try to get different information and that sort of thing. We really just don't know. But I also wonder, could it be something to get our attention away from something else, like that shiny object that they want us to pay attention to while they do some sleight of hand? I just don't know. But it sure would seem suspicious to most of us when we hear that phrase, suspect vehicle number 1 in that PCA. Because if they're saying there's a suspect vehicle number 1, then that must mean there's more than one, but they only mention the suspect vehicle 1. So a lot of people have questioned that, and that certainly raises an eyebrow. Now, for this video, though, I'd like to focus on the possible ways that the people who did this could have gotten away. If you believe that Bryan Kohberger did this, then you have to acknowledge the fact that a person with his level of intelligence and background in his studies would be very aware of the popularity of surveillance cameras. His master's degree was in cloud-based forensics. So this guy knew all about that, and he would have come up with a way to access the crime scene and leave the crime scene without being caught on camera. So to believe that Bryan drove around the neighborhood in a white car multiple times and making a 3-point turn at some point, that just seems absurd. So for the purposes of this video, it really doesn't matter who did the crime. Whoever it was, they would have needed to get away. Now, there were some people involved in this story that lived within walking distance. We got Jack DeCour, we got Jack Showalter, Adam Lauda, Enan Harsh. They all lived very close, within just a few moments of a walk. And I'm not saying any of these guys were involved. I'm just saying that their names were brought up, and so they lived very close. Now, you also got Sigma Chi right across the street. You got the whole Greek row. Fraternities and sororities all within easy walking distance of this property. So, and then you got the other housing, the Queen Road apartments and the dorms and all these other buildings. There are all kinds of people that lived within walking distance, would not have needed a car to get there. And then also you got those cops out there at the band field in their white car unmarked. So a lot of people within very close proximity to this. So let's say it was someone from the outside of that immediate area. How would they get there? Well, someone who follows modern true crime would definitely know about surveillance cameras that people have on their homes. And the camera that was mounted to 1112 King Road was probably the best one of them all. And it would have been very obvious that there was a camera there. And when I spoke with A.R. Hayes in my interview I did with him, he said that anyone who knew anything about petty crimes, breaking and entering, robbery, that kind of thing, would know all about these cameras. And they would have spotted that one there at 1112 King. So you're not going to want to drive into Queen Road where there's only one way in and out, and that camera's right there. So to me, that makes no sense to be even thinking anybody would do that. It would make much more sense to park your car a distance away and then just walk to the house. And there is that wooded area behind the King Road house that would have provided some good cover for anyone approaching from that direction. And they could have easily entered the home through the sliding glass door that faces that same way. So if we're to believe Brian Kohberger did this, he could have parked his car a distance away and walked to the scene, as I mentioned. I also did some checking on bicycle trails in the area, and it turns out that there are tons of them. It's a very outdoor-friendly place, so there are trails all over the place, and even some that connect Pullman to Moscow. And I want to say thanks to Juzzy for putting this idea in my head 3 weeks ago. So Brian or anyone coming from Pullman would have been able to ride a bicycle there 9 miles. They could have done it. I looked it up. It'd be about 45 minutes. And we know Brian was in good shape and he worked out, so it would have been easy for him to do that. It doesn't mean he's guilty. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, we also know Brian liked to run. So he could have packed a small backpack full of what he needed to carry out the crimes and could have gone on a run and could have run those bike trails very easily. He's dressed in black, wouldn't be able to see him very well, or anybody who did it could have run there, okay? The bike trails are all over Moscow. They go in multiple directions. A person could have stashed a car somewhere and done this and then either rode or ran back to the car. They could have even undressed and changed clothes and even washed up in a remote location and taken whatever time they needed. When I was in the Army, we were able to take showers and clean up where we were out in the field, usually with no more than a bucket of water, some soap, and some baby wipes. And they even make camper showers you can use that you could take a regular shower if you got enough water. Then the dirty stuff could have been buried in a pre-dug hole or taken off-site in a garbage bag and disposed of later. There's definitely options here, I see, with the possibility of getting away like that. We don't know who did these crimes. And, I know some of you are in that, Brian's guilty camp. And then there's some of you that think he should be let out of jail right now. And I think a lot of you are in the middle. That's where I'm at. But I hope we can have a good discussion about this. You guys are usually good in the comments, so let's keep it that way. So what do you think about the way people might have made it to the scene? Do you see the bicycle or running option as something that could have been done in this case? Do you think Brian would have driven around the neighborhood in his car like that, knowing what he knows, or anybody for that matter? It seems very, very unbelievable to me. So let me know what you think about this one down below. You guys are always great. I love reading the comments. Thanks to everybody that leaves them. You guys are awesome. I really do appreciate that. I also want to say thank you to the Horns High Club, the membership. I appreciate it very much. You guys are cool. And I appreciate everybody that watches these videos. And we'll see you next time on 666 Seconds of Murder.